Zadarius Smith and a 7th for a 5th and a 6th is an absolute steal for the Lions. They absolutely needed an edge rusher like we need oxygen to live. And they get the guy that's ranked 23rd in pressures amongst edges. That's great process by the Lions. I really like it because Smith is not going to make up for the loss of Hutchinson entirely, but he's going to give you about 80% of what Hutchinson was doing, I'd say. And that's very valuable. They were not getting pressure without blitzing, and now they're not going to have to on every single play. They can do it as a bonus, not as a necessity. So I think this is a great move for the Lions, and it's whatever for the Browns. Jonathan Mingo and a 7th for a 4th rounder. This is a trade that nobody saw coming, and if your friend says that they did see it coming, your friend is a liar. Mingo is averaging 23 yards per game and 9.8 yards per reception through his career. Compare that to Cooks last year, Brandon Cooks, the number 2 wide receiver for the Cowboys. He's averaging 41, which is 18 more yards per game, and 12 yards per reception, which is 2.2 yards more per reception. Yes, Cooks is old and Mingo is young, but I don't think Mingo is ever going to be up to the level that Brandon Cooks is even right now. So I think this is a pretty wild trade for the Cowboys, and I don't think it's going to help them in the long run. The big fish of free agency was Marshawn Lattimore, and I didn't expect him to be moved, to be completely honest. I thought the Saints were just going to perpetually be pretty bad, but never, actually tank. So props to the Saints for actually going into that direction a little bit. They traded Lattimore and a 5th for a 3rd, 4th, and 6th, which is a pretty decent return for a 28-year-old cornerback. I think this is a fine move for the Saints, and I think this makes a lot of sense for the Commanders because he fits their timeline. Jaden Daniels being a just menace to defenses is accelerating their timeline, so why not invest in right now and a little bit in the future also. So the Steelers haven't completely struck out at the wide receiver position this year. They didn't get Devontae Adams or Brandon Ayuk, so it's not a complete success, but they did get Mike Williams, which is okay, I guess. They gave up a 5th rounder for him, and what they get back this year is a guy that's averaging 18 yards per game on 14 yards per reception. He was hurt in 2023, so there's basically no data to go off of there. His numbers, though, compare kind of like Van Jefferson's. Jefferson is averaging 17 yards per game, so 1 less than Williams, and 10 yards per reception, so 4 less than what Williams is getting. The hope is obviously that Williams does better, but I don't know. So the Steelers said that TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig, not enough of an edge rushing room. So let's get Preston Smith. And they went out and did it. They traded a 7th for him, and I think that's really solid process. Preston Smith is definitely worth more than a 7th, even if he is up there in age at this point. He is 38th in PFF run defensive grade for edge rushers that are playing 20% or more of snaps. So he's a great edge setter, and that's going to pay dividends in early games, especially because he can play 1st and 2nd down and keep TJ Watt fresh for 3rd downs. So this is just terrifying. All right, to wrap this up, I give the Lions an A for the Zadarius Smith trade. That helps them in their aspirations to be a Super Bowl contending team. There's not really much to say beyond that. It actually was needed for them because they were just forced into blitzing basically every play beforehand. I give it a C for Cleveland. It was kind of just average. There were no other teams that were desperate for an edge rusher like the Lions were, so there wasn't much of a market. I think this was about what you could expect, so it's not really special in any way. As for the Jonathan Mingo trade, I give Dallas a D-. He was an early third consensus in 2023, and to give up a fourth for him a year and a half into his career, I don't think that's good process. You could argue he's more talented than a third rounder, but the consensus board is generally a pretty good guideline. So I think that that's a fair assessment of where he is. For the Panthers, I give it a B. It resets their rookie contract window. I don't think it's a fantastic move for them because at the end of the day, they still have Bryce Young, and he has no talent now at receiver, with the Deontay Johnson trade happening also. But it's an alright move. It's not bad. For a nicer trade, the Commanders get an A for Marshawn Lattimore. He's a star player. I would say he's a top 10 or so cornerback in this league. He can compete with the star receivers on other teams, and he can help the Commanders compete for, I'm not going to say a Super Bowl this year, but they can compete for basically anything below that, and moving forward, they can compete for a Super Bowl. He's only 28 and a half, so he is able to be in their long-term future plans, so I think that's a pretty good move for them. I think it's an excellent move for the Saints, though. I give it an A+ for them. I think this was the best offer they were going to get. It's not great for their salary situation, but what is? So I think this is a really good move for them. I like it for both sides. I think you could argue it's an A+ for both teams. Something I'm a little bit less high on is the Steelers getting Mike Williams. I give it a C+. It's not right to do, but I compare it to the Devontae Adams move, where the Jets gave up a fourth for him that could turn into a third, but it's not going to turn into a third. It's a fourth. They're different in their money situations because Williams is very affordable, but they're also drastically different in their caliber of play. As for the Packers, I give it a C-. Lucas Van Ness, he sucks. That isn't to say that he's always going to be bad, but as of right now, he is. So they have just 3 edge rushers. It's a lot nicer to have 4 because 1, you're insulated against injury, and 2, there's just not really going to be a fatigue on your stars if you have 4, because that means you can sub out your 2 stars and have the rotational guys go in. So I don't think it's a great move for Green Bay. Green Bay is supposed to be contending. I think it's alright to get something out of Smith when he wasn't really going to be a long-term player, but they got the bare minimum. So I like this a lot more for the Steelers, and again, I give it an A. Those are my thoughts on the trades that have happened. Be sure to let me know what yours are in the comment section, and also be sure to like and subscribe.